Well, hello, I'm Catherine Boyle from Key Ministry. Welcome to our Block 1 Quick Takes. I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker today, Craig Johnson. Craig Johnson is a pastor, author, and advocate currently serving as associate pastor at Lakewood Church with Joel Osteen and the founder of Champions Foundation and Champions Club. These are developmental centers for individuals with special needs with almost 100 centers across the world. Craig is the co-author of Champions Curriculum, a full-scope Christian curriculum for special needs, as well as other curriculum and resources. He's the author of the books Lead Vertically, Inspire People to Volunteer and Build Great Teams That Last, and Champion, How One Boy's Journey Through Autism is Changing the World. Craig and his wife Samantha co-wrote the children's book, You Are Extraordinary, which was the first inclusive children's book published by Tommy Nelson. Craig travels and speaks across the world advocating for the destinies of the forgotten and disenfranchised, and he and his wife of over 30 years have 3 children. Today, Craig will be presenting to us how to influence leaders and get buy-in to launch your special needs ministry. Welcome, Craig.
Well, thank you so much, and it's so good to be with you all today. Thanks for taking time out, and I want to thank the Key Ministry team for everything you guys have done, and Tim Tebow and the entire team for being a part. This is one of the biggest questions that I get asked, and so I got to take you a little bit back to my journey of how it really started at our church. And one of the things that, I hit very beginning was really the vision. And I remember walking through our church, and I came by the kids area, and God just stopped me. And as I hit the kids area, and God just stopped me and spoke to me. He said, Craig, look at what you're doing for typical kids. He said, it looks like Disneyland, but look at what you're doing for special needs children. And at that time, we weren't doing very much. And God just spoke to me and said, Craig, those kids deserve the very best, just like every other child. And when you look in these kids' eyes, he said, what you're looking at is you're looking at me, because when you do it in the least of these, you do it unto me. And he said, favor will follow you and your church when you begin to reach out to these kids and families. Now, that was the beginning point. That's where most of us kind of hit when we're trying to figure out, God's told us to do something. Now, how do we get it across to our leaders, to the influencers, the people around us? Well, the time I really didn't know what to do, but I did know how to put together a task force. And it was one of those things that I knew that I had to get people around me to begin to share this vision, because it's a lot more difficult when you do it on your own. And sometimes it seems like it's overwhelming, isn't it? Trying to get our senior pastor to listen, trying to get the church behind what we're wanting to do in ministry. But I love this story. Between Austria and Italy, there's a section of the Alps, and it's called the Cimmering, where it's almost impossibly steep. It's a very high part of the mountains. And a world-famous engineer, he built literally a train track over these Alps to connect Vienna and Venice. What's interesting is he built these tracks even before there was a train in existence that could make the trip. He built it because he knew someday the train will come. And sometimes we've got to lay down tracks of faith even before the track is in existence and the train is in existence. And we've got to build those tracks of faith. And that's what I had to do. I had to build faith. I had to give vision that I didn't even know how to start a special needs ministry. So what I did is I began to go out in the community and begin to reach out and find influencers in the community, find what God was saying. And God really spoke to me 2 things. He said, one, I want you to build a program where the most important thing is you never turn away any child, no matter how severe it is. That's a big ask, isn't it, for a church especially. And then secondly, God spoke to me and just said, I want you to make sure you come alongside the parents as much as the kids. And I began to take this vision out, and I found some of the top researchers I actually saw them online on ABC News there in Houston. And I saw these top researchers, and they were doing the top research on autism and different types of special needs. And I went in there and I began to share just the vision of what I felt like God wanted me to do. And to my surprise, God will give you favor in those situations. And to my surprise, those researchers came along our side and began to help us. Then I began to reach out in the community. I said, man, we need research. We also need educators to get behind us. And so I went to some of the top educators in our community and just kind of presented the same vision. And sure enough, they got behind us and began to help us. Now, this is far beyond where I ever presented to the pastor. Then I went to the most important special needs parents in our church. Families that are walking alongside of their children. They really know what's going on. And so I went and asked them to be a part. And then I got a part of our ministry team. What I was really doing with the vision is I was building the tracks of faith even before the train was built. And it's so important that when you're doing that, you take those steps of faith, even though you don't know how it's going to turn out. Well, pretty soon as we work together, this team, before we ever present it to the pastor, this is the type of preparation, we begin to formulate ultimately what would become the Champions Club. And these experts that I pulled together just off of heart and mission, they begin to really formulate what would become the Champions Club, really a holistic approach, mind, body, soul, and spirit. So that's why there's 4 stations: physical therapy, sensory education, and a spirit station. And we begin to formulate this and put this together. And then I began to go to our pastor after we had done this for a year. Now, this just talks about preparation a little bit, but for a year, and then we presented to our pastor. And sure enough, by that time, with all the preparation, we were ready to present. Now, here's the biggest struggle that I think we face many times as just leaders. How do you get to the pastor? How do you present? How do you lay these things out? One of the coolest things that I've seen overall is if you go back into the foyer of the church right here, 20 years ago, you probably would have never seen that many ministries. But now there's so many ministries that can come along your side and they would love to help you out. As a matter of fact, many times when we go and we're helping out somebody that's wanting to present to their pastor or their church, reach those influencers, we'll give them they'll come to us and we'll give them a full PowerPoint presentation. We'll even offer to help them as they're presenting. And I know with many organizations that are here today, I've watched them as they've come along, different leaders that are wanting to launch. I've watched them really come along their side and really begin to help them out. So you've got tremendous help with you. So the first thing I'd say is partner with organizations that will give you the tools you need to start to really give you the preparation to present to your key influencers. The next thing I would do is really identify who those inside influencers are and the outside influencers you need. I call them allies, right? So inside influencers, if you can't get to the pastor, if you can't get to the executive pastor, now I'm an executive pastor at our church, I'll tell you who's the biggest influence on my life, right? My wife. And so I tell people, if you can't get to the pastor, present to his wife or present to an elder or a deacon. Get people around you that's going to come along your side. You're better together. You're more powerful when you get a team. And so find those influencers, those inside influencers that can come along your side and help you present and share your heart for that ministry. I think, too, it's so important to get outside influencers, right? People within your community. People that can help you in different ways. One of the first things that I did, wanting to start our ministry, and I'm just kind of giving you an idea of when we started, was I began to find out all the organizations that were in our area, and I began to go out to them, and I began to build relationship with them. And as I built relationship with them, I kind of it was almost like I got a team that was around me, not only to present, but they they gave me points to look at. They gave me things and statistics that I didn't know. They gave me perspectives that I didn't see. And they really helped come along my side. So when I did present to our church, when I did present to our pastor, man, I had so much encouragement and also so much information to begin to present and do it in the right way. So identify the inside influencers and identify the outside influencers. I think another thing that's really important is be prepared when given the opportunities. Organizations, like I said, can help you prepare, but it's really up to you. And you have to decide that, what am I trying to accomplish? What am I looking for? I find out that in life you're going to have many callings, but you may only have one mission. And I found out when we had our son, that wasn't just a calling, that was a mission in life. And when you find that mission, you've got to really understand that when you're given that opportunity, you've got to take advantage of it. You may only have 5 to 15 minutes to present, so make sure you're prepared, you're ready to go for that opportunity. Another thing that I encourage people on is this: passion is more powerful when you put a name and face to it. And what I mean by that is, I encourage people not to start special needs ministries. I know that sounds strange, because for pastors, that is a little overwhelming. Many times I would get these questions that would be asked to me. For instance, they would say, Craig, how can I start a special needs ministry when we only have enough volunteers for our typical kids? Many stigmas, many things around that. And when you present a special needs ministry, some are very receptive if they have that background, but many times you've got to find avenues to influence them. There's no more powerful way to find an avenue than to, one, tell your story, and then two, really begin to find somebody within your church that there's a story behind. For instance, my son Connor, he really became the story for us. And when we presented the story of Connor and everything, the church got behind that. They'll only go so far many times for special needs because it's so big, but they'll go to the ends of the earth for Connor. Passion is more powerful when you put a name and face to it. So we begin to tell stories, and we begin to tell stories of how this ministry, when you get it started, how it's going to impact Connor and his family, and how it's going to make a difference in their life. That not only speaks to the congregation, but it also speaks to the pastor, because he knows that family in his church. He knows those people. So find that one family. Maybe if you don't have a family in the church, find a family in the community that you can tell their story and tell how your ministry is going to impact their life. Another thing that I think was so important is be able to answer the how and why questions. I feel like for the last 10 years, one of the biggest things that I've done is answer all the questions of why a pastor or a leader wouldn't start a special needs ministry. When I started out, I thought, man, this is the very heart of God. Obviously pastors would want to reach out to these families. But I found out that with stigmas, with all the different challenges, with it being so new, I hear a lot of statistics around that there's 10% of churches have special needs ministries. I don't know if that's an official statistic, but I would put it more around 1%. Because when you're looking at 350,000 churches, I would guesstimate that there's probably, I don't know if there's 3,500 churches that have special needs ministries. So we're still in that trailblazing time. So you've got to answer those questions of how and why, how they can do this. Why would they do this? For instance, when I stand in front of pastors, many times I'll show them my family. And I'm so proud of my family, my wife, my 3 kids, and I'll show them my family. And I'll say something like this. I'll say, we love to give, we love to serve, we love to be a part of a community. And then I ask them, how many of you would love to have our family come to your church? And almost every pastor will lift up their hand. And I'll say, well, here's the challenge. If you don't have something for my son, it would be difficult for me to come to your church. And it's almost like a light turns on for a pastor or leader. that when they hear that, they realize that it's so much bigger than just starting a special needs ministry, although that needs to be the heart of it. But it's families that can come and be a vibrant part of this church. Because for the first time, when you start a ministry like this, I tell the pastors, you know, they're going to be able to serve for the first time. They're going to be able to give for the first time. They're going to be a part of a community for the first time. Many that are shut in, it's going to not just be a good ministry, it's going to transform their lives. And there's something that clicks for those pastors when they hear that. And so many pastors, I think, in our society, they're all fishing from the same pond. And here's a pond nobody's fishing in that can not only, you can reach these families, you can literally see their lives transform, but you can grow your church. Because we can see that happen, whether it's with the rise of autism and the awareness that's going on through that, or so many different special needs. There are so many families that could be a part of your church that could really make a difference. And you see another light turn on. I think the last thing, and I think it's really important, and I found this to be true even when you're talking about success. The key to success many times is don't give up. Keep going. Trust God's timing. You know, many times it's pushing through. It's finding another answer. It's if one door doesn't open, keep on trying another door. And I can talk to many of our amazing speakers that are here today, and how many knows that they got, you know, before they got that yes. And if you can just keep on going, don't give up. Believe in that family that you're going to help. Keep sharing. I think it's so true what Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 2 through 3, even though it's ultimately talking about fulfilling the end times, but it really speaks when it says, "Then the Lord said to me, write my answer plainly on tablets, so that a runner can carry the correct message to others." The vision is for a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. And if it seems slow in coming, wait patiently. Don't give up, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. I truly believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that favor will follow you when you begin to reach out to these kids and families. But it is many times about God's timing and about not giving up and making sure that you're doing everything that you can to begin to reach these kids and families. When I look back and see those different times where it would have been easy to give up when I was told no, I think we give up too soon before God really provides the answer. And so if you can take these steps right here, I think it'll encourage you. I think it will help you in trying to reach out to your pastors and leaders. And I truly am believing and praying for you that God will open up those doors to begin to start a special needs ministry. God bless you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Craig. Well, now I'd like to introduce to you